Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Train Tuesday. It's me, Jim, and there he is, man of the hour.
Guys.
I'm just going to do this from now on because I never remember. Hey, Janik, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Sorry I missed it out last week, but I think I was pretty productive anyway, so hopefully it pays off.
I think you're going to have some great stuff to show us here shortly, so I won't let that cat out of the bag, but we'll give a little bit for some of our guys to show up. Want to shout out to, we've got Jeremy, Gordon, Daniel, Randall. Thanks for coming on board. Brad, welcome aboard. Hope you guys are having a great Tuesday. I hope your December is going well. We're about a little bit over the halfway point to some of those major holidays. I don't know where the time goes.
Yeah.
You got all your holiday shopping done, Janik?
I'm not much of a holiday shopper. If somebody gets me something, I'll get them something back. But other than that, not much for me.
Yeah, no, I usually ask for the same thing every year, and I never get it. So, in the emphasis words of Mr. Scott, I need more time. I never get more time.
Just ask for something else, and then maybe you'll get what you actually want.
There you go. Yeah, that's a pretty good Rolling Stones mentality of gift giving. I like it. So great. We got Dave on board. We got Gene. We got Glenn, Richard, Sean, and the Penn-Getty Railroad. That kind of sounds like a classic rock funk group, doesn't it? The Penn-Getty Railroad.
Yeah, it does.
So like their first album would be what? Interstate Commerce Committee Blues, maybe? I don't know. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming on board. We got a great show for you today. We got some neat stuff, and you'll see why Janik has changed his name. Just realize that. I was going to say don't panic, it's Janik, but no, we've got SPSF Merger Janik. I love it. And he's wearing one of the best shirts.
Goes with the shirt, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So we've got something, we get a lot of requests for folks out there like, hey, guys, I really love the Genesis stuff that you guys are doing, but, man, can you do something for, maybe the younger modelers or something a little bit, the price isn't quite as high because, the Genesis models, they're priced accordingly. They're a very detailed locomotive, and as such, we have to price it accordingly. But we do have something really cool, and let me get my screen ready to share. And that's the Roundhouse 40-foot high cube outside braced boxcars. That's pretty cool. Let me share my screen here.
Yeah, I'm sure if Tony was here, he'd be reminding us of how long those cars have been in the Athearn line for. I know it's been a long time.
I'm sure he would. Yeah.
It's been a long time.
They have been here a long time. I'm going to go ahead and bring that in. And you know what? Whoever that group was earlier, hey, there's some Penn Central for you. We've got some great cars in this release. And, tell us a little bit about these, Janik. Maybe let's start with like the Roundhouse background. They've been in the Athearn line for a number of years, like you indicated. And then tell us a little bit about what you guys in the engineering did to kind of tweak them and make them even better for today's modeler.
So the main thing that we do with the Roundhouse stuff is we make sure that it's ready to go out of the box with regards to the trucks, the couplers, the weight. The couplers are at the right height. The wheel sets are engaged. The weight is what it should be for a car of that length. Because having a model, out of the box that you got to do a lot of work to, There's people that are able to fix their models up, and there's others that just want to take it out and run it. So we really focus on the reliability. And then the second thing we focus on is the painting and the printing. Just really sharp printing on these cars, the paint, the way that they're able to mask off these colors, like on the Arizona Eastern and the Golden West Service patch cars. I mean, you wouldn't see something like that in the blue box days.
No.
Something that we've been able to sort of implement in these newer releases because a lot of these cars survived longer than their first owner, second owner, and they got patched and faded, and it just looks really cool. So.
Yeah, and the nice thing too about this is that you've got it offered both in the prime for grime and as delivered, if you will. Like the Penn Central and the Burlington Northern are in their original colors, but the Arizona Eastern Railway and especially the Southern Pacific former Golden West service. I mean, look at how faded that is compared to the as delivered. So you've got a really good starting point for some weathered cars on your layout, especially if you're modeling anywhere between the 60s to the mid 80s.
Yeah, and into the 90s, especially for the Golden West service. I remember seeing those as a kid, and they're still out there, but you won't find one that looks anything like the Golden West service blue that we're offering here, because they're all faded. The 40. So a little bit about the 40-foot high cube. It's an interesting car. It was designed for appliance service, and so you got a short car, the tall car with a pretty big door on it, and they were in dedicated appliance service, refrigerators, washing machines, that kind of large appliances, and they usually had cushion underframes and load anchors inside to hold all this stuff. So just an interesting kind of car. The Arizona Eastern cars are interesting as well because they carry copper concentrate, copper anodes. I saw one going through West Colton the other day. And I was like, "What? That's a 40-foot boxcar running around in 2020." That's
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I thought
that is something you don't see, every day. Boy, that's kind of rare. And you remember that guy we were talking about earlier, Penn Getty Railroad? He just got back to us. I'll just put that up there because I don't want people to think we're just teasing this guy. He says, Penn Getty Railroad is the name of my N-scale layout. I'm located in Gettysburg, PA, so Penn Getty came to mind. It's a great name, by the way.
That's a great name. Yeah, it's perfect.
I love it. And way to go. It reminds me, too, we've had some really good pictures come in from you guys out there for the holiday contest. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But, yeah, thanks for writing in. I mean, we like to see what you guys are working on and stuff.
Definitely.
So, yeah, these are, like you were saying earlier, I mean, the printing on these just makes anything from the Blue Box era just not even close. It can't hold a candle to it. I know I've got some original Blue Box here. And, they were a product of their time. They were great kits for their time. But now technology has allowed us to do so much better. And these Roundhouse models, they're just a bargain. I mean, they're still not, they're way above anything you would have gotten 20 years ago. I mean, but they're a good, economical freight car alternative.
Well, and like you said in the beginning, not everyone wants to spend $50 on a freight car. And if you're building a freight train, especially, sure, you're going to have some high-end cars in there, but you're going to have a mixture of cars in there, and you're not going to want to spend that much on every car. So having these, yeah, the price on these is for what it is. It's a good price.
And the other thing too, like we do all the time, we offer these in this case 3 different road numbers, so you can mix and match. You can build up a really good, pretty good sized freight train. And for those of us that like operations, maybe you got industrial type railroading, we love these kind of freight cars.
Oh yeah,
they don't take up as much room on your spurs, and really, like one of my favorite railroads, the Burlington route, they use these for appliances. So each road uses them for something a little bit different, like you were saying earlier. It's great for industrial stuff. So check these out. These are really good gift ideas for those out there that are looking to still get some gift ideas. But the pre-orders on this are going to end right after Christmas, Monday the 28th. So if you're looking for some 40-foot high cube box cars, this is a great setup we've got here. There's a lot of great road names there. So let's see. There's something else that we were going to talk about it last week, but I wanted to save it for this week because it's kind of special, and it's special for a few reasons. We're kind of talking about non-Genesis stuff this week because, again, everybody's got a budget. Everybody's got what they want to spend their money on. And sometimes they just need a good workhorse. I mean, a lot of railroads, even in the full-scale world, needed a good workhorse. And that's what I want to show you guys next. And Janik, I know you had a lot of work that you put into this next release here. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. And here we go. The SD40s under the ready to roll line. These are just great locomotives, but there's something different about them this time, isn't there?
Yes. So first time ever with the Economi sound. And first time for LEDs, maybe. I don't remember if the last run had LEDs or not, but they have LEDs now. They have Economi sound. These SD40s, even though they're in the RTR line, they're a lot closer to a Genesis than you might think. With all these prototype-specific details and decoration that we've done on here. And actually, the reason why I wore my shirt today has to do with the SP7303 being one of the units painted in Kodachrome. Actually, we're not doing it in Kodachrome, we're doing it in speed lettering. But the interesting thing about it, and I don't know if you can zoom in, Jim.
Sure.
But it still has the red number boards on it. So,
let me zoom in on that.
Yeah, even though they repainted it into speed lettering, they did not change the number boards.
Check that out.
Yeah, that's a really interesting little quirk right there.
That is. And that's just, another one of those things that, a lot of us as modelers don't think about. We just see the pretty parts, it's Southern Pacific, and, at this date it was this color, but, to the railroad, it wouldn't be economical to get a brand new set of number boards. They just recycled the number boards from the previous paint scheme. And that's a detail that definitely has been forgotten in the past. So that's really cool.
Definitely. So a little bit of background on these. Two groups of SD40s, both in Southern Pacific and both in speed lettering. However, they have wildly different background stories. These first two units here, 7303, 7316, those are part of the GRIP rebuild program, 1980-1981, rebuilt in-house by Southern Pacific. And those units at the time, they received -2 electrical components, and they got, basically completely rebuilt for better reliability. And then what we've depicted here is the units in the 1990s, where not only have they been repainted in speed lettering, but they've lost all of their gyro lights, front and rear.
Okay.
And in the case of the 7303, it has a beacon on the roof, which is a late SP feature. And they have, the modified L window on the cab, where they basically went from an L window to almost a regular window, but the one window was still a little bit bigger than the rest of them. So just an interesting pair of units there. 1990s era with the speed lettering. Those 90s guys are asking for stuff, and here it is.
Now, what I'm going to do too, Janik, is we're just going to briefly go through the different road names that we're offering in this release, and then I got a special surprise for you guys, and I know you guys are going to like it. We'll go through real quick. Check it out. You got what a lot of guys call the Cub Scout paint scheme of the Santa Fe. Really cool, iconic paint scheme, and like you said, people asking for the 90s, and so once again, you've delivered.
Yes, definitely. Those 90s San Bernardino rebuilds on Santa Fe. Those are cool.
Now, here's a line that we've had requests for, and I know a lot of folks are really happy about this release. The Utah Railway. These are ex CNO units, and you had some fun with the research on these, I bet.
Yeah. The overall theme of this announcement is rebuild. So all these that we're offering are rebuilt locomotives. These Utah ones right here are from MK and rebuilt by MK from C&O in Western Maryland, and they ran on the Utah from the 1990s until the 2000s. And it's cool. The first two units being ex-C&O, they still have the bell on the side of the hood there.
Oh yeah,
From the C&O days, and they also have the class brakes on the trucks. So those are pretty interesting units.
that's very cool. Of course, we've got CSX, and I mean, you've got a paint scheme that you don't really see much anymore. I mean, these were kind of in between paint schemes when they went from that stealth gray, and then they put a little bit of blue in there, and then they decided, due to visibility at grade crossings, hey, let's put some yellow in there. And it's not quite the CSX that we're familiar with.
Yeah, this was the first scheme to incorporate any yellow. There were a lot of variations in it from different locomotives as well. But this group of four right here, again, CSX rebuilds to -2 standards. And this group lasted into the 2000s, even in the 2010s in some cases.
Wow.
I want to point out that we've got the most accurate, up-to-date colors on these, as well as artwork and fonts. We've been working really closely with some of the CSX guys to get all that information. So pretty proud of how those came out.
Yeah, those are nice. I mean, that definitely brings back some memories where growing up on the East Coast, we saw some CSX, and that's pretty much what I remember from late 80s, early 90s. And of course, you can't have SD40s without these. These seem to be, it seemed like when I first moved to Illinois, these were on every BNSF train.
BNSF, CN, CP, these are Alstom rebuilds. And they come from all walks of life, and the details different for each number. But the paint scheme is very unique with the green and silver. Stands out in a consist. And yeah, like you said, in the 2000s, 2010s, these things were all over the place in lease service on those railroads.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so if you're modeling anywhere from, like you said, the 2000s on up, and if you're running class 1 railroading, you're going to want to have some of these, because remember in that era too, we had just come out of a bunch of mega mergers, and
Right.
There was a lot of power-hungry railroads running the rails back then. So these were, like you said, just about everywhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, there's definitely some cool stuff. And I can tell that, that's why I tell the guys when you can't make it in, that's why, because you're busy doing all of this research, and it's a lot of work. So I know I appreciate it. I know the guys appreciate it. But something else I wanted to talk about was, we were talking about the decoder on board there, which is a first. And so I've got a special guest. He has been working with us for years on making sure that the sound is accurate on our locomotives. That is the one and only George Bogatiuk. Hey, George, welcome aboard.
Hey guys,
George,
happy Tuesday.
Yeah, happy Tuesday. So, hey, tell us a little bit about the work that you guys have done with these decoders for the SD40s.
Well, the one thing I want to point out is these are full-featured Economi decoders. And the Economi is kind of a play on the word economy and tsunami. And yes, they're not our full-featured Tsunami 2, which has everything, pun intended, all the bells and whistles. But by many stretches of, if you just look at the features comparison, our Economi decoders are very comparable to a lot of our competitors' high-end stuff. And so you're not really sacrificing much like you do with some of the other stuff out there with an Economi versus a Tsunami 2. So, when it comes to selecting the sounds for your guys' models, we do make sure that we match them up accurately. So, for example, these SD40s, we're going to look at that decoder, and we're going to put several versions of the SD40 645 turbo prime mover on there, so that you get the main one that is correct, but you also have some slight variations in there. So if a customer wants to change it up a little bit, that's great. And they have that opportunity rather than jamming these decoders full with like a 567 or a 710, which wouldn't be accurate for the locomotive.
Right.
And then we also build custom sound scripts for the horn selections. And so Janik, I know you do a ton of research, and you'll come up and say, okay, this road or these road names that we're doing in this release have these air horns and these bells and stuff like that. And so the advantage is that all that effort is put into the decoders. So when you're looking at your horn list, not only are you going to have the full roster of the horns that are matched to that locomotive, but you're also in some cases going to have variants thereof. So therefore, like for example, I was talking with a customer yesterday, actually on the phone, and we were talking about an Athearn SD40 that he was looking for in the Norfolk Southern that had a P5, and I realized there's two versions of the P5 on that Economi decoder that we don't have on the aftermarket version of the Economi. So that's just one example of how we've customized these decoders to match your models. Now, when it comes to features, we've packed these things full. I mean, the Economi is definitely a step up from our original Tsunami, which was the benchmark standard for years. And, you know, many of the features that you saw in the original Tsunami are even translated over into the Economi. For example, the 7-band equalizer. A lot of people don't realize what the equalizer is and what its purpose is, but what it does, it allows you to adjust the overall tone to match either the speaker's strengths and weaknesses, or you can make different locomotives sound a little bit differently. So just like you do on your stereo system where you can boost the bass, reduce the treble, or vice versa, and kind of match it out, you can make these locomotives sound really strong. I know your cube speakers that you guys have been putting into some of the models, I don't know if they're going to make it into these Economies or not, but if they do, then you have some more of those low frequencies, and if they don't, well, you can maximize the frequencies that the speakers can do so that it feels like you're getting those low frequencies. It kind of helps fool your ear. Because I know there's a whole different wide range of speakers out there, whether we're using the 16 by 35, which again, I don't mean to knock it, it's a great speaker. But the two cubes tend to give a little bit clearer, a little bit better overall range of sound. So, you know, the equalizer is one of those features that really allows you to go in and adjust that. But, you know, there's features like that. Dynamic braking, for example, one of the features in the original Tsunami was that it would adjust how the prime mover was affected when you use the dynamic braking. So in the Economi, that feature's there as well. So when you turn on the braking, traditionally most diesel engines aren't going to be throttling up the gas if you're using the brakes. So your prime mover will drop to idle as you coast the brakes down grade. And there's other scenarios like those SP locomotives that we were just talking about would actually typically notch 4. And the reason for that was to make sure there was enough electrical energy generated by the main generator to keep the traction motor blowers running. You got to keep that air flowing across those traction motor blowers to make sure that the traction motors don't overheat, because they are now momentary generators as the locomotives are riding the brakes downhill. And so there's different settings and all those things that are in there. When it comes to sound selection, we talked about the different prime movers. You've got 16 air horns. You've got, I think it's 22 or 24 different bells to choose from. So a whole mess of things that you can adjust and customize in your Economi decoder to match the model that you're working on, plus with many of the features, including functioning independent brakes, momentum braking, stuff like that. So we're very happy with the Economi. It's been a very, very popular product, and I'm excited to see that you guys are using it in your RTR line on a regular basis, because I know it's definitely well received, and we get a lot of great comments about it.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, Janik and of course you too, George. You bring up two really good points. I mean, one of the things are a lot of us, maybe we're in a modular club, maybe we're in we have a rather large layout. We need to get a lot of locomotives going, and you know, in a perfect world, Genesis is great, but I don't know, you know, maybe you want to leave those super detailed locomotives home on your layout so they don't get broken, because they are susceptible to damage. But if you want to run a really impressive brace of modern diesel locomotives, these are a great alternative, because they really do have a lot of detail to them. And with all those features that the Economi has, it's really not selling itself short anywhere in the detail or the sound or the performance department. All around a great locomotive.
Yeah, one of the best things to do with it, like George was saying, is to go in and play around with the equalizer a bit, play with the volumes, you know, maybe pick a different prime mover sound that sounds similar, but not quite the same because there's multiple prime movers included. And then if you've got a lash up of 3 or 4 of these things, you don't want them all to sound exactly the same. And you have the power to do that with these, and it really makes a difference when you're running at a club or another space where everyone's listening to them. So.
Now, and it still gives you a lot of value for the price. You have a lot of fine tuning that you can really do with these decoders, can't you, George? So you were saying earlier,
I mean, every sound effect on there has. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. You were saying earlier, and you picked up a good point, where Janik is doing the research on the SD40s. You're going to have different types of horns, and you guys, when you make the decoder specific for the Athearn locomotives, you know what Janik is working on, so you know which horns to include, so you don't fill up a decoder with a bunch of unneeded sound clips. If I'm saying that correctly. So that just goes to show how much further our hobby has gotten as far as being closer to the prototype than it was even, say, 10 years ago.
Oh, it's amazing what you can do now with sound. One of the things I was talking about is that you've got every sound effect has its own volume control. There's not some decoders you're out there, you're limited with horn, bell, prime mover, and then background sounds. And the background sounds are rated based on what they predetermine. And with our Economi sound system, every sound effect has that individual volume control, so you can adjust that for your taste. So if you want certain sounds to play and other sounds not, then you can adjust that accordingly. And with our Economi, there's actually 12 independent sound channels. Our nearest competitor in their high product line only has 10. And what that means is that you have limited number of channels for sounds to play. So, like say with some of our competitor stuff on their high-end stuff, when you turn on the bell, the air compressor sound mysteriously disappears. And the reason for that is because they only have a certain number of sound channels to play. And so with Economi, those 12 sound channels play, and they play intelligently to make sure that you're going to hear as much of that sound as you possibly can. I mean, you paid for the whole decoder, you might as well hear it all at the same time.
Sure.
So
sure,
we're really excited, and it's definitely it's definitely popular out there. And then of course we know with the Genesis line, our Tsunami 2 even takes those features and goes above and beyond and adds even more to it.
Now, one of the things that our fans may or may not know is what is involved in getting the sound for the decoders. Could you tell us a little bit about the kind of research that you guys do and how you go about getting those recordings?
Certainly. So when we get recordings, we actually contract with the railroads that have the equipment that we're looking for. So let's just, for argument's sake, say we're looking for an ES44, because I've got one of these here on the table. We'll find a railroad that we're friendly with, some people maybe in a local yard or something like that we've contacted in the past. We'll communicate with them, maybe a museum or something like that, and we'll contract with them to gain access to the equipment, because you can make sounds and you can walk around in the field with a microphone on a stick and hope to hear the right sounds and hope that you get these sounds. Well, what happens then is, let's say, for example, in a yard, your walking pace with this locomotive, you may not get notch 8, for example, because they're just running back and forth in a yard. And so when we're contracting with these railroads to gain access, we'll actually then, we have to sign the safety paperwork, because we're going to be climbing on this thing, and we're going to be mounting microphones all over it to make sure that we get all the sounds that would be that you would hear if you were standing next to the locomotive. So there may be one up by the exhaust stack, one down by the crankcase, one down by the traction motors. And then what we'll do is we'll take all these recordings, and then we work with the engineer that's actually running the equipment and say, okay, this is what we're looking for. And we try to always have a load on the locomotive, because it does sound different than when it's light. I'm not going to say we always get that, but most cases we do. I think there's only one or two that I can think of off the top of my head that maybe wasn't recorded under a load. One of them we actually went back out and re-recorded, so that one is kind of irrelevant at the moment. But anyway, we'll throttle up. We'll go into each notch. We'll transition up and down several times and get those recordings. And then what the advantage is the fact that these multiple tracks are coming into the recording device, and we're able to get the full feel of what that locomotive sounds like. So once we're done, this is where, for lack of a better term, we'll say the magic happens, but it's not as much magic as it is just a skill set with listening and cutting audio, because too much is made of the word editing, and it is something that has to be done. But one of the things, but we don't manipulate the prime movers, for example. What we're doing is we're cutting it into slices. And what that means is, like, say, for example, if we're hearing a locomotive sitting there idling, what you're actually hearing is probably about a half a second to 3/4 of a second, maybe a second long audio clip of that diesel engine. And it's just playing over and over and over again. And where the skill set comes in is finding out where to clip those files so that when it starts over again, you and I don't hear the difference. You and I won't hear that track play over and over again, because if we do, then it ruins the illusion of what we're creating. And now you're like, wait, I can hear that clipping, or I can hear that track, and it just kind of ruins the effect. And so when it comes to editing, our engineers have to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And if your track is too long, you won't have space to have all the sounds you need on the decoder. So it's a balancing act.
It is, and if the clip is too long, you may not get that immediate response of the sound that you're looking for as well. So like when you go from 0 to speed step 1, you're expecting to hear that diesel engine transition up. If that's got a 2-second clip to play, you don't want your locomotive diesel engine starting up 2 seconds after your locomotive's moving.
Right.
So it is a balancing process. And like, say, for example, when we're talking about the air horn, there's actually 3 sound clips that you're going to hear. First one is called the attack, or it's the sound of the horn valve opening. Then you have the sustained, which is, as we were talking about, the looped section of the air horn. And then you have the decay, which is the sound of the air horn valve closing. And our engineers have to make sure all 3 of those sounds match up so that you and I don't hear it. And one other thing I do want to point out is these decoders are preloaded, even with the Economi. They're preloaded with the full sound spectrum, and that's all the highs and all the lows. And the reason for that is because with the equalizer, if you have a speaker that's capable of reproducing 20 hertz, guess what? You're going to hear that 20 hertz coming out of the decoder. Other companies will edit it. In other words, they pre-equalize the sound so that way they filter out those low ends, because they're assuming your speaker can't reproduce, say, 200 or 250 hertz. And so what that does is, now if you have a speaker that's capable of it, now your sound maybe doesn't sound as clear, or you start hearing it. But in an assumption here, and I'm just going to use it as that, it also helps the download process faster because the data isn't as deep.
Okay. No, that's great. And I don't know about you guys, but if I'm working on the layout at night, I usually have YouTube running, and I've found some really great YouTube channels out there. Mainly guys running just, industrial type layouts. And boy, if you're doing, especially if you're doing transition era, sound is really important if you think about it. And these guys are really tapping into that. So we're seeing, all the benefits that you guys are putting into the sound chips for these locomotives. And from what I've seen online, and hopefully someday with a layout behind me, it comes in real handy in an operation setting. Well, that's great. George, are you available to stick around with us for a little bit? Because I'm sure a lot of our guys are going to have some questions as we go along.
Sure, absolutely. I'm here to answer questions. I'll be here until you guys decide that you're done with me and somebody wants to hear some stuff. I've got a couple of locomotives here back behind me that we can show off and maybe talk about if questions come up.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, while we're on that subject, yeah, you do. I think you said you had an ES44 behind you. What else have you got back there behind you?
So I've got an Athearn Genesis ES44 over here. This is one. I know, Janik, you've seen this one. I kind of go nuts when it comes to the models. I'm a lighting guy, And so one of my things I've been doing is adding all the lights on these locomotives. So I'll add the step lights, the walkway lights, the number board lights, the truck lights, and even I've got a couple of other lights that maybe aren't common in this model. This model here has 22 LEDs in it. And yes, it's an illness. Unfortunately, there's not a cure for it except just building models. But I've been having fun with this because, you know, a lot of these LEDs now are coming out in these micro small LEDs. I mean, I've even seen, you know, one of the more common ones I use is an 0402, which has to do with the size of the chip. And they've even got 0201s now in some models that I've seen. And it's amazing how small we're getting this stuff. But they're HO scale light bulb sized. I mean, it's actually ridiculous how small these things are. And they look fantastic, and it gives us the ability to add all this stuff. So, like I said, this is one I've been kind of going a little nuts on. This is one of the ones that's up in my my to-do queue, and this is an RTR SD40 T-2. Right now, it's actually installed with a Tsunami 2. I did a step-by-step video online. I believe it was for Train World TV. So that one you can see on their website, one of our retail partners. And so this one got the decoder long before it got the detail work. But the only thing is I'll really add to these. And, you know, you talk about the RTR quality. I mean, it's amazing how much, you know, detail you guys put into these things. The only thing I'm really adding is like underbody traction motor cables and air brake hoses or the brake pipes on the trucks. Otherwise, I mean, it's pretty much more or less done. And so that's where this one is. And this one here has been really a lot more of like a mule for our videos because it is fairly stock. And rather than reprogramming one of my own personal engines every time I try to do a demonstration, right now this one seems to be the one that I use for most of those. And for anybody who doesn't know, we have our SoundTraxx YouTube channel, and we post short little 3 to 5 minute videos about specific features once a week. And then we also have longer videos, which is our webinar series, where we'll go into in-depth overviews of decoder operation, but then there's other topics that aren't necessarily related to SoundTraxx, such as what is DCC? How does it work? And we reveal the little green man behind the curtain and how all that stuff is going on. And there's one even on there about how to solder. So brush up on your soldering skills. Because there's a lot of stuff in our hobby that it's word of mouth and trial and error. And a lot of our hobbyists have found a way to make things work, and that's the way they've done it. But this is an opportunity to learn the proper way to solder. And then there's one even just how to use your DCC system. So no matter what brand command station you use, whether it's an NCE, a Digitrax, or an MRC, webinar number 9 teaches you how to use this thing. And we show you the button presses because we get calls all the time where a customer will say, hey, I want to do X, Y, Z, and we tell them, and then there's this moment of silence and say, well, how do I do that? Because they don't know what buttons to push on this thing. So we have that. So it's not necessarily SoundTraxx related, but it's great information. So, and then the last thing I have over here is a Athearn Genesis GP15. This is actually probably closer to what I actually model, which is 1978 Missouri Pacific, which is what the layout is based on. This is an illness. These are going to be run through power eventually when I get my full-size layout sometime in the future. And then the G15s really rule the roost here at my home layout.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, you bring up some great points. And I mean, I'm certainly guilty of this to a point too. You know, the locomotives that we're getting are packed with so much technology, and it's, you know, woefully to say that maybe some people, and I definitely will put myself in this category, aren't giving the technology the full breadth that we could. And it's interesting, you know, some people are like, hey, I put the long address in my locomotive, it matches the cab, I'm done. And that's the end of it. And that's really just so much more to this. And so those web links, those are found on your website. It's at what's the address again, George?
So you can go to youtube.com and just search SoundTraxx videos as one word, which is our channel name, or you can go to our website, SoundTraxx.com, and click on the YouTube icon, and then that'll take you directly to our channel. Or in most cases, you can actually search YouTube and a topic. So like say, for example, YouTube dynamic exhaust, or I'm sorry, SoundTraxx and dynamic exhaust on youtube.com, and it'll pull up several videos that we've done in the past highlighting that specific feature, how to set it, how to do it, and what the purpose of it is. And then there's other ones, momentum and braking, using the 7-band equalizer and so forth. So there's a lot of good videos. We've been doing them in January. It'll be 3 years that we've been posting videos every week. So if you do the math, that's at least 150 videos on there. And we continue to do more. And there's installation videos. There's, like I talked about, specific solder feature videos. And then there's just some operation videos. There's a couple of videos here where I operate my grain elevator using a steam locomotive, and we use the momentum and braking. And then I do the same thing, but with a diesel engine and so forth, and showing just the operation of it. I mean, how do you use the decoders? And there's so many features built into it. It gets really easy to just turn it into a throttle knob, start, stop. And, you guys are paying for all these extra tech features and the extra technology. Use it, make it more fun, make it more enjoyable. If you like it, great. If not, then go back to the other way. I mean, that's the benefit of our hobby, is you can make it your way.
Right. Yeah. To kind of quote an old hamburger chain, you can just have it your way. And the great thing too about your reference point on YouTube is, it's one thing to read it in black and white, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that, but a lot of us like to see it being done at the same time. It kind of reinforces it in our heads. So yeah, I encourage all of our fans, if you've got one of our locomotives, sound cars, or anything of that nature that's got the Tsunami, the Economi in it, and you want to really get into it and learn more, I can say from experience looking at George's videos, they're excellent tools to have in the workshop. And nice thing is, unlike the old days, it doesn't take up a whole bookshelf. You've got all that information at your fingertips on your device. So that's great. Well, we've got some stuff that we'll have you hang around here, because we usually have some questions towards the end of the show, but we've got some neat stuff coming out. Janik, always busy. I don't know why his name just isn't Janik the Panic, because he's always working on something. But you sent me some pictures the other day, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Sometimes I get this spur of the moment idea to go down to the train club and take pictures of some new stuff that I just got in the mail. So yeah, I got some SD80 Max recently, the first production samples, and I was like, oh man, these are cool. Especially the lighting features on them. What with the working ground lights and the marker lights, number boards, Genesis 2.0 lighting features.
Yeah, so, I got to get a better mail delivery person, because you get all the cool stuff. Look at this. This Conrail is stunning, and you were telling me a little bit about the different lighting features of these new 80s that were not available in the previous release.
Well, yeah, basically first time ever that we've had enough lighting functions to be able to do this. Having the 8-function Tsunami 2 decoder in there, as George knows, it lets you have a whole lot of other auxiliary lighting other than just your headlights and backup lights and ditch lights. So here's the EMD 8000, the demonstrator SD80 Mac. You see there, it's got the headlights, it's got the ditch lights. The ground lights are on in that picture, although they're a little bit dim, which is on purpose. The real ones aren't that bright. Those are more visible in dark lighting, like you see here. Here I've got the engine with the marker lights on. So this is what would be used if the engine was pushing a train. They would turn these marker lights on the nose here. And you also see the ground lights lit up there on the sides. So just really cool light features on this thing.
No, these are great, and we've been having some guys ask us on the last few episodes of Train Tuesday when these are going to be in stock with their dealers. If you pre-ordered these, you should start seeing these at your dealer probably about the middle of January, maybe late January, but they are on their way, as witnessed here by the ones that Janet took some pictures of. And so if you pre-ordered these, they are coming home soon. If you did not pre-order these and you want to take advantage of one of these locomotives, definitely talk to your dealer now, sooner than later, because I don't think these are going to last long. I know those Conrail ones, the pre-orders, we did pretty good with those Conrail ones, so really nice.
Yeah, don't forget the Norfolk Southern ones too that we got coming out.
That's true too. Yeah, that's right. We don't want to forget Norfolk Southern. That is definitely true. Well, that's cool. So that's something that we can have to look forward to. Something else that we've been working on here in the office is our holiday photo contest. And happy to say we've had some pretty good entries in the last week. If you have not had a chance to get your entry in for the holiday photo contest, you only have a few more days. In fact, you've got about one more day, because after Wednesday, it shuts down. We're going to start doing some voting. Now, remember, the winner will be getting a Genesis locomotive. It's a UP 1943, if I remember right.
Yes.
And you'll also get to join Janik and I. We'll talk about your picture. We want to talk about how you did your picture, why you chose that picture. And that'll be the week of the holiday, the big holiday. So
that's
if you
real prize getting to come on the show with us, huh?
Or to deal with us, one of the two. I mean, George knows. I mean, he's been dealing with us for about 30 minutes now. So, yeah, maybe we shouldn't say that. Maybe they don't want to, win. But anyways, I wanted to share just real briefly. I've gotten some really good pictures this last week, and we have shared these on social media this past week.
Yes.
Great entries, everybody. So let me go ahead and share that with you all. Let's see.
Remember the criteria here is best representation of trains and the holidays and using Athearn products. I'm simplifying it a bit, but that's the general criteria with this concept. That's great, man. How do your trains arrive to your layout? Well, they come in a sack, and
I know, yeah, and not only that, but that's a beautiful layout. I mean,
it is
really nice. I mean, Paul sent this to us. He was one of our first folks to come on board and send that. Just really nice layout. Look at the detail in his everything from his crossing. His freight cars are weathered. I'd really like to operate on this layout. This is beautiful.
Yeah, me too.
Now you remember those Hallmark ornaments? In fact, I see one there. I was going to put some on this little tree behind me, but I didn't get a chance. But this is upping your tree game. This is hardcore.
Hey, do your Christmas ornaments have DCC and sound? Because mine do.
Bragging rights. Here we got one from Sean. He went the traditional route, but look, I wouldn't mind waking up on Christmas morning and seeing these underneath my tree. These are gorgeous. You've got the Santa Fe billboard paint scheme along with the war bonnet. I mean, and plus, they're going to sound good.
He's missing the Kodachrome one, but other than that, I approve.
I didn't get a name on this one, but I had to include it. That's you remember this caboose, Janik?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
It goes back a little bit.
Yeah, that's neat. That actually was real. So to see it on there.
So, like I was saying the other day, you remember the elf on the shelf? No. we model railroaders, we take this stuff serious. So it's the elf on the switcher. Michael sent this in.
Elf on the shelf layout, more like.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That picture actually looks like a real size, but instead of he's riding the what is it, the 1.5-inch scale trains. That's it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That stuff is an elf.
That's about
there. You
go.
Yeah. That's what it does look like. That now you mentioned, it looks like some of those ones. You probably see a lot of those out out west. I don't think we've got too many of those out here. Now this, check out the weathering Wesley did on this locomotive. This is beautiful. I mean, if only model railroaders get excited about dark and dingy and faded paint, but this is very nice. And look at the detail in just this one shot.
Man, this is a great representation of Prime for Grime. I see 3 Prime for Grime locomotives in this picture.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of Wesley for representing, and he just took something great and he made it better with SF16 with all the weather.
Yeah, really good angle. He's got some local workers there. It looks like that old Cub Scout got tagged a little bit, so I wonder how far from LA this locomotive is.
Probably not too far.
Tim Peters is sending us this picture. This is a MKT sitting station side. Looks like a nice cold morning in December. I wouldn't be reading the newspaper. I'd be that other guy running to get inside the station. I'm a wimp when it comes to cold.
Yeah, it was 48 right there.
Now, Michael brought this. This was a great little story to this. Michael sent this in. The 3 wise men hitch a ride on the caboose. They ride the caboose. They have a connection, probably in Chicago, to Conrail to go to Bethlehem. Unfortunately for the wise men, it was Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And as such, the wise men are now being questioned on their ability of being wise. So this one had a neat backstory, neat story, and nice looking layout in the background too. So really cool. This one just came in from Silas. He's got some. It looks like a Chicago yard. He's got a couple of. Look, you got a Merry Christmas boxcar, and it looks like a snowflake. Maybe that's filled with. Well, if it's in Illinois, it's probably filled with ice melting solution.
Can't go wrong with the heritage unit either. So that's good to see.
I'm a little jealous of Anthony. He sent this really nice picture. This was from last year's open house that his club had. And look at this beautiful facility they had to set up there. It looks like they've got a modular type layout. And he's running those gorgeous Santa Fe F units. And a lot of Athearn product on that train. Just a beautiful layout.
Yeah, that's a sweet backdrop too. With a lot of modules you don't see backdrops being stored, or if they are used, it's kind of awkward looking. But
yeah, exactly. This is a cool picture. I think the lighting on this is really nice. This was done by Greg, and if you look carefully, you'll see Santa Claus is patiently waiting for the crew to, do a changeover. And I think Santa's on his way to some destination, but looks like an early morning or early evening. The Santa Fe F units just coming to the station. Really cool picture. And I think this is the last one I have for you guys today. This one, when I first saw it, it just made me cold. Look, even the light looks cold. It looks like you're, early morning. The sun's just starting to come up, and you've got that train, that beautiful Rio Grande F unit, and it's got passengers and its coaches probably all headed to their different destinations to celebrate the holidays.
Well,
early morning.
That's the ski train right there from the looks of it. So it would be appropriate if it was cold.
Man, I can tell you, having taken ski lessons in gym class during high school, I would like to ride that train so I could go skiing. I love skiing. So we get some great stuff this past week, and we want to thank each and every one of you for sending this all these in. You still got some time to send some more in, and we're gonna pick a winner. Janik and I are gonna go through and see which one really goes after that message that we're talking about. And you're gonna get a notification from us. You'll get an email probably from me. And so just be watching your email in the next week or so, and we'll be getting back to you on that. So good job, everybody. Thanks for participating. There were a few that I couldn't use just because they weren't the right size or they weren't quite within the theme. So if you got any questions, if you go to our website, there is a banner there now that talks about this contest and what we need. Just follow those real simple instructions. and go ahead and submit your entries. So
Cool. Sounds good.
You guys got some
You know
great
what?
submissions there.
There's some beautiful stuff. I mean, we've got some really talented fans. I'm kind of envious because you see my layout behind me. I'm modeling mid-1970s Illinois with pink soil, and
Hey, that looks about right.
yeah, it looks about right. It's the right, nice and flat. So, well, great. You know what? I found out it just came in stock the other day, and I'm kind of excited about this, even though I'm more of a 1970s modeler. Let me see. Yeah, see, George knows where it's at. 1970s. We both like blue railroads. We both like the 70s. Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick. And I want to make sure I've got it up because I don't want to disappoint you guys. Let me see. Here we go. For all you guys out there that have been asking, I know you guys have been asking about this and you're looking for some modern stuff. Let me show you what just came in stock and is available at athern.com or your local dealer. All right. ES44 ACs. They just came in. And if you pre-ordered these, your dealer should have them. If he doesn't have them yet, he should get them real quick. But what's cool about these, as I scroll down a little bit, you'll notice a lot of these are faded. Remember that really cool picture we saw, Janik, earlier of the Prime for Grime locomotives where I apologize, I forgot the modeler's name, but he did such a great job just taking it further.
Yeah, that's
Check these out.
Yeah.
And here's a BNSF one right here. And I'll go ahead and select that. Look at the doors are primered. It's all faded out. It's kind of like almost like a salmon color. It's not even orange anymore.
Yeah, a little bit of fire damage on that one, so it looks like they replaced some doors.
Yeah, even the nose door's been replaced on that.
Mm-hmm.
So these just came in, and watch our social media this week. I'm excited to say we've got somebody that's doing a great review on the ES44 AC. They're doing the Canadian Pacific as they're a Canadian Pacific modeler. And so we should have that review up probably, I would say, later this week. So definitely check that out. If you've been waiting for the ES44s, they'll be here soon. If you haven't ordered one, you still got a chance to get those in, but they are selling out pretty quick, aren't they, Janik?
Yeah, especially some of those UP ones that have the unique paint schemes. Like there's one that has no flag on it, and I actually heard somebody saying, "Oh man, they really screwed up and forgot to put the flag on that one." Well, actually, that's how it looks. That's in real life, they didn't put a flag on that one, and it's something different other than the typical UP stuff that you see. So I think that one's going to go quick once people.
Just like anything, I mean, just like that one you were talking about earlier, Janik. I mean, you basically, if you think about it, when you do your research, you have a backstory for each project that you work on.
Yeah, it's true. Especially the Prime for Grime stuff. You see that BNSF one that you showed off. That one had some sort of fire damage, and at some point in its life, it said BNSF, and after that, it had primer doors on it, and it tells a story. And maybe by now it's been repainted. I don't know. These things happen slowly. Taking the engine out of service is pretty expensive. If the doors are there, that's probably good enough. So.
Yep, and see Sam McAllister, he was just asking too. I'll throw his question up here. He says, "What's the ETA and the ST80 Max? I know it's soon." It says early January on the website. Yep, that's basically when we do that. We don't have a firm date because of everything that's going on. And of course, we're dealing with a lot of different modes of transportation here too. So we work in a broad range. So typically when they say early January, you're probably looking at about the first to second week of January. So that kind of gives you a little bit of heads up time, but they are definitely on their way because Janik's got two of them, got some really good pictures of them. Well, George, this is the part of the show where we really like to talk to our fans out there, and they usually have some really good questions, a lot for Janik since he does so much work. But since we've got the representative from SoundTraxx here, we figured we'd put you to work too. I know our guys are going to have some great questions. So here's what I'll do.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks again. We really do appreciate it. And I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna do some virtual Railfanning in our short sleeve shirts.
Cool.
Because I'm a wimp when it comes to cold. You never know. I came from New Hampshire, but let's see.
So how are you from New Hampshire and you're not used to the cold?
So, my argument is, as I bring up, I'm going to bring up a Railfan location here. My thing is in New England, we don't have the wind like they do in Illinois.
Oh, that's
the wind is really bad. And of course, we have sun. So, when you're out snowmobiling and stuff in the wintertime, I mean, there's no wind, the sun's out. If anything, usually when I go snowmobiling back east, I'm usually sweating to death. It's nothing like the Midwest. It's really different. Now, I do miss snow. And George, I know you got some snow where you're at. In fact, tell us a little bit about your name. For those that don't know, you've got yourself set up as Goalie George. Tell us about your hobby a little bit.
So one of the other things I like to do is play hockey. I'm the goalie, so I get hit in the head a lot. And so I use that as my excuse on a regular basis if I don't remember something. Been playing. I didn't play in school. I didn't play growing up. It was something I picked up afterward, but I'm not one to not just, dabble in something. I got to go with whole hog all the way. Kind of as evidenced by some of the models that I have. So I just went and taught myself and trained and just kept working. And now, I play in some of the top leagues here, but I also partially use that name today because that's my personal YouTube channel as well. And you'll see operation videos of my layout back behind me where I'll do things like the grain turn or do some switching, industrial switching, stuff like that. I'm probably going to film some stuff today because I'm going to plan on operating trains this afternoon. So I'll probably get another video put up there soon. But Jim, I was going to tell you, you talk about the snow and the weather patterns here. We may be in the 20s. Like I was driving to town today, it was 29, 24, but the sun was out. And so you're right, without the wind, without the humidity and so forth, it's a really different type of cold. And we've got one of the world famous ski resorts just up the road in Purgatory. So I think you need to turn this into an excuse for a business trip. Come out and visit us and then get some skiing in while you're in there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, let's do that. I think I've already seen some questions here for you. Let me look in the comments real quick. Here's a good question, rather long, but I'm going to post it for you. Christian wants to know, his biggest question for SoundTraxx is if the braking features are on non-sound engines. As much as I'd like to put sound in everything, it's a slow process. It's a pain when only some engines brake using the brake feature in an MU.
The short answer is SoundTraxx mobile non-sound decoders do actually have the braking rate built into them. Now it matches the original Tsunami system. So you basically have one braking rate, and that's stored in CV61, and you have to enable it to a function. So it is there in our non-sound version decoders. So if you want to add it in, absolutely, you can do it. And that was designed that way for compatibility.
So another great one, and it's a great question now. Where'd it go? The one problem we always have is our fans have some of the most intelligent questions out there, and they come fast. So here we go.
We're doing the best we can, but
Goalie George, do the new Economi decoders come with a quick plug for a current keeper? That's a good question.
Yes, they do. So the after factory install does have a 2-pin connector to plug in the current keeper. So it's nice and easy. And in the aftermarket product line, there are provisions in there for current keeper. The PNP board does have the 2-pin connector that you can plug in, or our alternative, the 21P NEM, does have provisions. You solder to the base plug, but solder on pin 16 and 20. And if you have any questions as far as how to do that, send an email to support@soundtraxx.com, and I'll give you all the information. But all of our future decoders, so the Economi, the Tsunami 2, and everything does have provisions for all of those to add stay alive modules, current keepers, and so forth.
All right.
Cool.
Let's see. I'm going to check something real quick. It looks like we're got a little bit of an issue with the live stream on the. Let's see if I can get that to go. Oh, now we've got. Wow, we've cloned ourselves somehow.
Oh my goodness.
Listen, look at us.
Please stand by. Yeah, this is scary. Well, Janik will get more stuff done now.
They're all
Look at
doing
that.
different things too. That's the great part.
That is pretty cool. Yeah. What are you working on, Janik? Are you from the Kelvin timeline, Janik, or the other timeline?
There was
I'm going to go ahead.
an issue with the transporter, man, and it just went haywire.
That has never happened before. That's different. I'm going to look for another. Thanks for pointing that out to me. See, our fans are awesome. They let us know what's going on. I'm going to look for another feed that hopefully is not so messed up.
I'll answer a question that was addressed to me.
Yeah, definitely.
From Asher Midgley at 234. They want us to do the Port Harbor 8955, and I just looked it up. And unfortunately, it's a GP40. So we don't make a GP40, we make a GP40-2. Now, it could be an option for Roundhouse, where Roundhouse, we're not as concerned with the accuracy, and the differences are pretty minor. We could do it in Roundhouse, but I'm guessing that you would want it in Genesis, and if that's the case, we would need to do some new tooling. And the GP40 is something we've gotten a lot of requests for, and so I would say it's one of our top items on the want list right now. All right, so we're in Kansas City, where we're going to be.
Yeah, and we got a train running, so that's a good sign.
Cool.
So we just got called
That's
out.
an
I'm just going to
impressive
put it out
place.
there because clearly Rapido is interfering from their own Star Trek references. Fascinating. I find his logic fascinating. Let's see, Janik, it looks like I've got one for you. Let's see. And now I lost it.
Oh.
It looked like a project that somebody had asked about earlier. But Zach's got a good question or a good comment. How about some IC&E Jeep 9s? He's asking for specifically 105 and 114.
Yeah, we can look at it. Sure. I don't know.
Definitely look at it.
I admit that I don't know much about those off the top of my head, but that goes for a lot of things until I start looking at them. So
Really cool. I saw some other questions for George, and here's one that I think we'll use. Tom Shannon. Do you have a plug-and-play speaker with all-in-one to put into DCC ready? Hopefully I'm wording that correctly.
So I think what he's looking for is like a pre-built kit that, say for example, the Athearn RTR comes without sound, or they want to upgrade to a Tsunami 2. I don't have a one-size-fits-all kit that you can just buy everything together, and part of the reasons for that is the speaker that may fit in here may not be the same one as we may supply. And then in that case, like say, for example, if the customer wants to put 2 cube speakers in there to really get that nice, loud, crisp sound, that may not necessarily be what we would have supplied. So the one size fits all doesn't really match very well because there is so many variants. But the good news is it's becoming easier, because I know you guys with your non-sound versions are going with a lot more with the 21 pin. And so with our TSU 21P NEM and our Eco 21P NEM, it just plugs right into that 21 pin. And then there's solder pads on the motherboard for the speaker of your choice. And so that's kind of the reason why we don't build it as a one size fits all.
Yeah, too many options and variations out there. Like you said, we have no idea what someone would be trying to install the sound in. An SW1500, that's a lot different than an F40PH as far as what you'd be wanting to use for speakers and space requirements. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like, say, for example, if we're doing, these ES44s, I know they had a 28 millimeter round. So there would be part numbers just for these individual kits for all the different ones. So it becomes very daunting. And so the easiest thing is just kind of get an idea. We do have a decoder selector on our website at SoundTraxx.com that'll help guide you. It's probably in need of updating, but for the most part, the speaker recommendations should be fairly accurate.
Yeah, definitely a great resource. If you have not been to the SoundTraxx website, definitely check it out after this presentation or at some point when you've got some free time, because it is a wealth of information. It's something that I go to often, just whether it be answering a simple DCC question or just seeing some of my older locomotives, what I can do to bring them into the 21st century.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're getting some really good comments. I'm just having a hard time narrowing it down. Somebody was asking for more of the, what was it we were calling it, Janik? We weren't calling them fantasy locomotives anymore. What's the new term that we're calling those?
Oh, the
legendary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody was asking for some Conrail. That's definitely a possibility in the future. We're going to talk a little bit more about those that are actually should be in stock by next week. We're going to talk a little bit more about those ES44s and the legendary liveries coming up soon. Here's one for you, Janik. And I kind of like where Steve's going. How about a Genesis BNSF Heritage 1 GP38-2, including unnumbered?
Well, I like that idea, Steve. Heritage 1 is one of my favorite schemes. Unnumbered stuff, I'm going to be frank with you, whenever we've announced it, and it hasn't been that often. So maybe it's worth another try. But what I've always been told is that it doesn't, it's not popular when we announce it. I'm not saying that we wouldn't try it again, but generally we have more success doing units that are ready to go out of the box. Whereas on an unnumbered, somebody would have to decal the cab number and the number boards front and rear, and then possibly, depending on what it is, they have to do additional decals. Generally, what we see with modelers these days, they want to take it out of the box and they want it ready to go. There are, of course, exceptions, but I'm speaking in generalities, as I often do.
I saw some requests here a while back. Let's see. In fact, I'll show it. Does Athearn plan to ever offer 1960s era diesel locomotives in N scale aside from the EMD F45s or FP45s? And that's from Tom. That's a good question. As you know, being an N scaler, I mean, you're not quite there with the HO scale guys. It's just volume for volume. HO's bigger, but if we get enough requests for certain locomotives, it's something that we'll consider. It's not a promise, but I think that's a safe bet, wouldn't you, Janik?
Oh, there's a ton of stuff in our line that I would like to see in N scale as well. So it needs some attention.
Definitely does. And the funny thing is years ago, I mean, I've been doing N scale probably since about 1991 or 92. And when I got into N scale, you didn't even have really good couplers. And now, thanks to folks like SoundTraxx, sound is attainable in N scale, isn't it, George?
Yeah, we just this past month announced our first drop-in board for N scale, and this will be the first in a series of different ones for different manufacturers. And I know we've done some N scale stuff for you guys before, including a new project that we're actually going on the machines for an upcoming release for you guys. So sound is becoming a big thing in N-scale, and especially with quality sound. And so we're very excited to be able to start offering that in mass. And so we'll have to talk a little bit more about the N-scale stuff as we move forward.
Yeah, definitely. We've got some great reviews out there right now, even on some of our N-scale SD70s that have been done. And, there's a lot of great N-scale locomotives that could see a new lease on life by upgrading them to sound. I would be all for that, George. I just saw one that's kind of, let's see, here we go. This one's directed towards Janik and I. This is from Zach. How about a Pan Am Heritage GP40-2 LW507? Cover this up because Zach obviously didn't see the McGinnis logo.
Zach,
I don't know. What do you think about that?
It is on the list, Zach. It is. and the list, if it's on the list, that means that we're doing it. So
get ready.
Stay tuned in 2021.
Yes. 2021, we've got a lot of great stuff coming.
Yeah, 2021 is like a few days away, isn't it? That's crazy. Like a couple weeks.
That could be a good thing compared, depending on where you're at too. It's been an interesting year for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, George, what kind of personally, we saw some of your projects that you were working on back there, and you're kind of making me envious, saying that you're going to do some operations tonight. What other kind of stuff do you have working on back there in the background?
Well, up on my workbench, I actually have at least one. I've got a second one to start pretty quick right after, but the RTR SD40-2C, which is the special designation the Missouri Pacific had for their coal units. And those were the 6,000 numbered units that came with dynamic braking. So I've got 3 of them at home here in various states of repair. This one I've got it apart. I'm going to add all the different lights. Of course, with the Missouri Pacific, they had the nose lights, the rotary beacon on top, and of course, headlight, backup light, class lights, truck lights, and everything on it. So the problem is that I'm halfway through it, and I haven't finished it because I need to take the drill press and run the holes through the frame to run the truck light wires through. So it's been kind of stalled a little bit to that, because by the time I unpack the drill press, it's like, it's 10:30 at night. I'll just do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow becomes, as we always do. But I've got that on there. I've got some, I've got a Jeep 20, or I'm not a Jeep 20, a Jeep 18, sorry, that I'm in the process of updating and stuff like that. And just, trying to get some others. I've also got 2 more of the Athearn Mopac GP9s that I've got to add the class lights and truck lights to. So
nice, yeah.
The good news is I've already weathered it. Now I just need to add the lights to it so I can run it on this thing.
Wow, yeah, that's neat. That'll be a cool. I'm kind of a Jeep 9, Jeep 7, GP18 junkie, so I'd like to see that when it's done. I bet you that's going to look great.
I'll grab one. I've got one done.
Oh, good. I want to see this.
Cool.
Let's see. I got to grab it out of the Roundhouse here real quick.
And you know what? While he's grabbing that out of the Roundhouse, I got one for you, Janik.
Sure.
I think you've heard this before. Now, I'm going to say before I put it up there, I 100% support this. How about an SP Kodachrome GP9 in the 90s scheme, or even Prime for Grime, please?
They were waiting until I wore this shirt. Because now, sorry, now I can't say no. Yeah, Kodachrome Jeep 9s, another really high item on our list, and another item that I would expect to see announced in 2021 at some point.
Basically, what Janik is trying to say is we're going to be broke in 2021 because there's so much good stuff coming out.
That's the problem, yeah. So there's definitely some good stuff going on. Oh, check this out. Ooh, look at that.
I'm going to just go ahead and minimize some stuff so we can see this.
Sure.
So you can kind of see up here that I've added the class lights up here. So I just drilled through, put an LED mounted behind it, and then used a lens on the end here, so that way I've got the class lights lit, and it's on both sides. So bidirectionally, whichever way I'm going, I can actually use that to be on the front of the locomotive, whichever way I'm going. And then trying to find, because the thing that worries me right now is when I was putting it on the track, I felt static electricity. So I'm hoping I didn't zap my truck lights, because they don't seem to be wanting to turn on right now. So let's get the locomotive starting to move here. So I'm gonna have a feeling I may have zapped my truck lights on here, but what I did is I went through and drilled underneath here so that the lights are underneath. Now, the biggest question is what the truck lights are actually for. And what they are is, when you're operating at night, it's so much dark around the locomotive and of course the headlights going forward. The engineer can't always tell if the scenery's, everything around is moving. When they throttle up, those wheels could be slipping and that locomotive would be bebopping, moving around and feeling like it's moving. But that's what the truck lights are for. And so they shine down so the engineer can look directly out the window down to the ground and see that the ground is moving. So that's actually the purpose of it. Whoops. So, but anyway, this is a little weathered, lightly weathered. So it just gives a little bit of, feel that it's there. And then we get to the other side over here and we'll turn on my backup light and the rear class lights. So I've got full control of everything. And then of course it comes with the Tsunami 2 sound in it. And so I didn't have to do much, but what you're hearing is definitely the equalizer that's played out. I've gone through and boosted some of the mid to low range so that you can really hear that throaty sound of the diesel engine. So
Very cool. Very convincing too. That's a nice looking locomotive. Very nice.
Well, like I said, the only thing I did was weather it and add the lights. You guys did all the hard work to it.
It's amazing how far we've come. I mean, George, how many years have you been doing this as a hobby?
I started around 14. I've always had an interest in trains, but when I really got serious into it, I was around 14. So it's 30 some years ago.
Yeah, I think that's about when I was doing it too. That 3 number. Yeah. And you know just as well as I do. Remember we used to get the, maybe the Athearn F units, and we get a detail kit for it at the hobby shop.
Mm-hmm.
And now some guys, they could do their detailing in their sleep and they would just look phenomenal. But as a 14-year-old, my grab irons would be all crooked and everything else, and I would spend hours upon hours trying to get it right. And meanwhile, my layout looked, kind of like the layout I've got behind me. I never got to work on the layout because I was trying to get my locomotives to look nice. But now, man, you've shown just what you can do with an out-of-the-box Athearn Genesis. And, how much work do you think you have involved in that, George?
To do this, probably just a couple hours, because the advantage is, as Janik said, these are 8-function Tsunami 2 decoders that are already installed, even in the GP9s, which are headlight and backup lights. So you've got all those extra lights that you can do this stuff with. So, go hog wild. And and they're pre-regulated for the LEDs. So all I had to do was run the wires, drill the holes, put the lens, glue it. The longest time is the glue. Because what I'll do is I'll tack it in place with some cyanoacrylite, super glue, let it dry, and then I'll come up behind it and really hold it in place with the micro crystal clear, because it remains pliable. So if I have to remove it, I can just take it out without having to chisel out the whole big blob of cyanoacrylite.
That's good stuff.
And and then I'll paint it. First a silver and then a black, and so that way that the inside of the body shell doesn't shine through.
Sure.
And so that's the longest amount of time. But then once that's done, run the wires up through the top of the body shell. And I'll share with your viewers here a little tip. If you take heat shrink tubing that you can get just small little pieces, and I don't have it quickly accessible, but we sell SoundTraxx sells a heat shrink tubing kit. But if you cut it into small pieces, you can glue it up in the top corners of the shell and use it as conduit. So you can run your small micro wires up through the body shell so that it stays out of the mechanism, and then just have them come down directly to the decoder right there. You don't have to you don't have to shrink it. Just glue it up in top with some cyanoacrylate, and it helps hold those wires out of place. So that part takes literally about 30 minutes, 40 minutes to run all the wires and put them to the appropriate pads on the decoder.
Very cool. Got a general question here from Kevin. Kevin wants to know, how's about more Athearn parts to buy? So my question, Kevin, is, are you looking for spare parts for a specific locomotive? You can go through our website. A couple of weeks ago, we did a cute little feature where we showed you how to look up for those parts. But honestly, we sell a lot of the Genesis line detail parts on our website, and you can get those through your dealer as well. So if you've got a project that you're working on, you need a specific detail part, chances are you can find it on the Athearn website. So give a look after the show and go through the Athearn website. And we have a lot of those kind of detail parts listed on our website. If you're looking for a replacement part, you'll need to contact our service department. Now, that being said, they are having a lot of people calling in right now. I think with the pandemic, we've got a lot of guys able to work on their locomotives. Just be patient, because we're getting to you, and there's a lot more than what we normally have this time of year, isn't there, Janik?
It's the busiest time of year. You know, people are stuck inside in lots of areas working on their stuff. So we got a lot of calls, a lot of emails to go through, and we are making progress on going through them.
Definitely. Well, we're getting close to the 5 o'clock hour. I think we'll call it a night. But I want to thank each and every one of you guys for joining us tonight. George, thanks for coming on board and talking to us about SoundTraxx. We do appreciate it, answering those questions.
Happy to be on anytime.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have you back on again, and maybe we'll start talking about some projects. And with that being said, guys, like I said, all of you guys watching, keep Athearn's live stream close to your workbench, because as we go into 2021, we're going to be doing some fun contests. This photo contest is just kind of a test. As we go into 2021, we're going to be doing specific modeling contests, some like you've never heard of before, that we're going to be doing. We want you to see your handiwork. We want to see what you guys are working on. We also want to know what you'd like to see Athearn produce next. So stay tuned for that. And until next week, I don't have anything else. Janik, how about you?
No, just, as always, thanks for all the comments. Sorry we didn't get to most of them. We see them all. We take them all seriously. Thank you all for your feedback. It's there's no such thing as a dumb idea when you guys are posting on here. We've seen nothing but great ideas. We really do appreciate it. And so, like Jim said, we'll see you guys next time. And happy modeling. All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. Everybody else out there, high greens. Have a great day.